Today, we're going to be seeing if the Fuji XH2S can handle the heat. Texas has been experiencing 100 degrees and up for the past month plus now. This is perfect for an overheating test. With this test, I used 3 different modes. They're what I am going to use and what I would probably suggest somebody use. So every test that I did was on my back patio, so no direct light, and with this screen flipped out and battery door was closed. There was no battery door open or anything. The screen flipped out was the only thing that was done for heat management. IBIS was left on in the normal setting, not the digital image stabilization or the IS boost. I recorded dual card slots on the codecs that I could, and then on ProRes it was just to the CF Express Type B, but I was recording a proxy for ProRes, and there was no fan on this. While I do know the fan increases record times, I don't know that that'll be necessary, and we'll see from these tests. One thing to note is that the camera being on the back patio with a tin cover and concrete ground, the temperature could have been reading a little higher than if it were in the grass. And so the temperature outside was 101 degrees. This actually proved to be a problem on my first test because I used my phone to record everything, and the phone overheated on the first test. I was really fortunate to come outside when I saw the overheating icon turn red. However, I didn't catch when it turned yellow. So every test I will tell you when it turned yellow and when it turned red. I can only estimate when it turned yellow on the 4K 60. So it was 101 degrees outside when I did this test, and all of the information for my camera are right down here. So I'm estimating the 4K 60 went yellow around the 15 to 20 minute mark. And this is based off the fact that it really has a pretty long time from yellow till red on the other modes, and so I'm assuming that's the case. The overheat icon did turn red at the 27 minute and 50 second mark. And so for consistent 4K 60 at 360 megabits a second, it seems very reasonable with 101 degrees outside. I can't imagine a scenario where you would need to consistently roll at 4K 60 like that. So it should work for anyone. I grabbed my other XH2S and ran another test with a fresh battery, and it hasn't been used in a while. And this was 4K 24. 4K 24 turned yellow at 13 minutes and 3 seconds, and then it turned red at 13 minutes and 30 seconds. I nearly panicked. This seemed completely unreasonable, especially after what I experienced with 4K 60. Then I remembered I forgot to turn high heat tolerance on the other camera. If you don't know how to change those settings, then I actually have a settings video for the XH2S. I'll have that in a card above, but yeah, make sure you turn that on because it wasn't even warm on the back of the camera. So after discovering the mistake I made, I realized that I probably should wait a day because it was getting later in the day, and I wanted to leave at least a 2-hour buffer for the camera to roll in case it could roll that long without overheating. So I figured, what's going to overheat quickly? I still have an hour while it's still going to be 101 degrees. I went ahead and let the camera cool down a little bit and went with the 6.2K ProRes HQ with proxies recording. So the ProRes 6.2K at 30 frames a second hit yellow at just 1 minute and 45 seconds sooner than 4K at 60 frames a second. It didn't turn red until 26 minutes and 54 seconds, which was just north of a minute from the 4K 60. This was kind of confusing to me, but then I thought about the fact that it's not having to down sample from the sensor and it's using the full sensor. And maybe because it's not downsampling the 6K image, this could theoretically produce less heat because it's not having to do as much processing. And so that's a theory. I'm curious to see what other people find, but I was pretty shocked to see that. I thought that there was going to be concern if I was recording at the highest codec, that maybe I would need a fan, but I don't think that would be necessary, unless I just had a crazy long outdoor shoot, because this was all at 101 degrees. So I waited till the next day so I could go ahead and do the test for the 4K 24 at 200 megabits a second. This is still at 422 and recording dual card slots. So I put a fresh new battery in. Everything was nice and room temperature. I take it outside and I hit record. And I'm hopeful for really good results on this test. The only downside was it is now 3 degrees hotter in Texas. It's 104 degrees outside. So I put it in the same place, but I really wanted to have a recording of this so I could know when it turned yellow and know when it turned red. So I did set up a pretty ridiculous rig so I could keep my phone from overheating. I basically just sat it on an ice pack. I had to angle it weird. I probably could have gotten more elaborate with it, but it ended up working. So this 4K 24 codec turned yellow at 34 minutes and 57 seconds. I was a bit disappointed in this because this wasn't significantly better than the 4K 60 or the ProRes. And from my experience, the XT3 and XT4 was capable of that for the most part. It maybe would overheat a little bit sooner, but that didn't seem like as significant of a performance boost as I thought I would have gotten from switching to the XH2S. I would come out and check every now and then, but the camera continued to roll with yellow until it hit 65 minutes and 22 seconds. This was pretty shocking to me, and I got a little crazy with it, and I wanted to see if it could make it to, I don't know why, but in my head I was like 68 minutes. Let's see if it could do 68 minutes. So it went all the way to 68 on red, and then I went ahead and turned it off because I'm not trying to blow things up around here. I was shocked to see that it went another 3 minutes and did fine, but it lasted well over 30 minutes after it turned yellow, which I thought was interesting. It seemed like a pretty early warning, but what I gathered from this test is that when it turns yellow is when they suggest that you have it on a tripod because it's going to start getting hot. I think it's kind of just something to, you know, a little CYA procedure. Maybe everyone knows that. Maybe I'm dumb and I'm just now learning that. My assumption is that's what that's for. So after I stopped it at 68 minutes, I was shocked to see that it still had over 60% battery too. If this doesn't tell you what this camera is capable of, then I don't know what will, because that's kind of crazy to me. The battery life would probably be pushing, you know, well over 2.5 hours. I don't know if heat has a factor, but the camera also records for 68 minutes and 104 degrees. I did touch the back of the camera and it felt toasty. It was burning up. So do be careful if you roll your camera for that long in just absolutely obscene temperatures. Doing these tests got me curious to try a few other things, and maybe we will sometime. Although I'm curious how much this is stressing my camera out to continually push the limits on it. But the XT4 overheated twice as fast if you had IBIS on. If you turned IBIS off, then it was substantially better. I'm truly curious to see if these cameras would be the same way or if IBIS is more efficient now. Maybe it'll be a test for another day. Based off these tests, I think most people won't need a fan, which is pretty incredible that they still offer a fan even though this camera's so capable. So from these tests, I hope this gave you some confidence that your camera will probably survive anything you throw at it. I really think the XH2S is a true competitor. I really think it's going to be something that can last you a long time and a real workhorse of a camera. I'm super excited to keep using it, especially considering these hot days we've had. I won't have to lean on my Blackmagic camera as much because of the fact it has a fan inside of it. Apparently Fujifilm has figured out some formula where they don't need a fan in there. They put their fans on the outside. I don't understand how that design works. If anyone understands, I mean, I understand it's pulling air to the back of the camera, but how effective can that be if it's not actually pulling out internal hot air? I don't. Oh, it almost feels like a placebo for the camera. The camera to be like, this is great. My innards are cooling down. You know what? It's time for me to stop.